The Winnipeg.net User Group 2016 season is brought to you by Aptius, IQ Metrics, Imaginet, Vision Critical, and Microsoft.
Woohoo! Better than Google I/O, eh? Okay, so what we're going to see today is an introduction to .NET Core, what it means, what can mean for you in the future. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the differences, and we'll see a couple of small demos. So if we're in luck, maybe by 7:30 or probably before that, we're done. Before that, anybody doesn't know me? You? Okay. I was about to say I'll skip the intro. So my name is Amir Barylko. I work as a software consultant for my own company, Maventhought. And I work in .NET, Ruby, other languages like F#. And I've been in software for around 20 years, maybe a bit more. I'm the president of the .NET User Group, and I want to take the chance to thank our sponsors. Do we have anybody from our sponsors here? No? Okay, well, next time maybe. And just a reminder that, well, George couldn't be here, so I'm stepping in. Unfortunately, in the next presentation, I'm going to present on Elm 2. So, and that's the last one for before the summer. There are some books to give away, so if you can manage to stay, you may get a book at the end. Or you can check the books at the side if you stay. So let's start with a bit of history. Hello? So let's talk a bit of the past. So in 2000, the first version of the .NET framework appears, and the great thing about the .NET framework when it appears, Java was already on the way, right? He was convincing everybody that... is it flickering? Yeah. Sorry. Java was convincing everybody that being multi-platform and garbage collected and all that, so we got the .NET framework with also an intermediate language runtime, the CLI, and managed libraries. And any of you had a chance to use C#1? Yeah, it was pretty much Java, right? And then I'm not going to go year by year, but here's a summary of what happened in 2005. Did I say right that 2000 was the .NET 1? 2001? Wow. So on 2005 with the .NET Framework 2, we got not only the new CLR, but the class library, WinForms, ASP.NET, and ADO.NET. Who's using still WinForms? 1, 2, 3, yeah. Some of you kind of raise your hand reluctantly and say, yeah, me. This is when we start being like a self-help group, right? Hello, my name is Amir. I use WinForms. ASP.NET. Funny enough, not the same people, you know. And ADO.NET. Like you got 3 of 3, right? Yes, yeah, I'm using it. No, name it. Okay, so the great thing about WinForms, it was a tiny bit similar to Visual Basic. Remember VB6? That this idea of try to convince you that by drag and drop everything was better, and you had handlers and code everywhere and all that. And ASP.NET was with the code in the pages, right? Similar to PHP and similar to JSP or Java, whatever it was doing. ADA.NET, I think it was is exactly like the JDBC. What was something more than that, or do you guys remember? It was that the data tables and all that, right?
Disconnected access.
Sorry?
Disconnected access.
Disconnected. Cool. So then we got the version 3.0 that changed a bit because we have a WPF. Any of you using WPF? Okay, you don't seem happier than the WinForms. WCF? Yeah, you got everything. How do you do that? Like, if it's all technology, you guys do it?
Pretty much.
That's the spirit. The card space, I never used that. Any of you use that? No? And WF, is that Windows Foundation or? Workflow, Windows Workflow. Ooh. Yeah, I never dared to use that. I read what it was and said, no, I'm not using it. C# 3. What was? It was in 3 that lambdas got introduced. 4. So it was C# 2 that we had delegates. Yeah. And then, I guess, okay. So if we jump to 3.5 in 2007, we got Link. And this is very different. One of the first times that kind of the .NET framework and maybe the Java world, they separated a bit because Java, recently they added streams, they added laziness. Of course, you always had libraries, right? But it wasn't mainstream. So you got Link and you got Entity Framework. This is the version 1 of the Entity Framework, right? That was the version that got the vote of no confidence. That for you that are wondering what that means, it means that's crap. So Entity Framework was the response that all the developers wanted a framework to use databases without having to do the queries. Most models can be mapped one-on-one or easily to infer associations. So Entity Framework was trying to do something like that. I think that also Rails was starting to push a bit more and kick everybody in the shins and say, hey, look, we're cool, we have gems, we have active record and stuff like that. What do you have? We have migrations, and that in the .NET world at least didn't exist back then. With .NET 4, we have, by the way, everybody uses Link? Yes? Okay. An Entity Framework? Yeah, who doesn't use it? Why? What do you use? Home baked?
Right.
Okay. And anybody else that use something else? Just queries? No? Okay. With version 4, we have parallel link and the task parallel libraries. Did you manage to use any of that? Yeah? So you see, it's not only old stuff that you use. And then on version 4.5, we have the .NET APIs for store and UWP apps and the async model. the idea of async await. Before we had callbacks and it was quite messy. Now with await async, all the state that you have to track and keep and all that is gone. So something that so far we have, but we have something missing. What is it that Java had from day one? That Java could run anywhere. Besides library, security, all that, but from day one, they could run anywhere. So how we make the .NET framework multi-platform? This push for being multi-platform didn't start that long ago, but when it started, many people started to say we were Windows have a huge market share, but with time, that market share started to slip to other vendors like Linux, like Mac, and it became very, very tempting to use other platforms if we could do it for .NET. So here's when the Mono project appeared. Are you guys familiar with the Mono project? Kind of. So the Mono project, and this guy Miguel de Icaza, he said, okay, I'm going to make code that you can write in C# and you can run on Linux. But because of the licensing model, right, and not being open source, so none of the tools could be reused. So you had to rewrite the whole stack. So the code that you see in Mono and the code that you see in Windows is not the same at all. So they had license issues. Of course, there's lots of repetition. There's lots of code that has to be re-implemented, and there is a big push for running things on Mac or on Linux. And luckily, now Microsoft have decided to embrace that idea. They didn't want to support Mono, though they just bought Xamarin that runs on Mono, so I don't know how that works. But let's take a look at what's ahead. Any questions so far? Do you guys use Mono for anything?
Was it stable?
Sorry?
Was it stable?
Yeah. It is stable. Xamarin uses Mono, so. Right, any of you develop with Xamarin? No?
Yeah, I use pretty well F# stuff.
F#?
On
Nice.
Mac.
Do you get the shirt?
I did not get the shirt.
Oh.
Didn't bother. I got distracted by actual algorithms.
Come on. Where are your priorities? I don't.
Store?
There was like a year ago, if you go to Xamarin and run some code or something like that, then you could ask for a shirt for F# or C#. So let's see what's ahead of us, the road ahead. And I put that on purpose because it's not straight at all. Like we'll have turns and we'll have to wait a bit and to put some effort into it. So here's the intention for what's coming up. We already have the .NET framework with ASP.NET 4.6, right? The new version is 4.5. But the idea is that from now on, we'll have also a .NET Core version that runs on Linux and runs on Mac. And actually, we're going to see in a bit that ASP.NET 5 is renamed to ASP.NET Core. So, of course, it's cross-platform. It's a single stack, right? It's the same code. It's open source, but not open source in a Microsoft held Office or something like that on GitHub. So that's a huge step, because everybody's using GitHub, or most people using GitHub, and so they had no choice that to follow that. And I was reading one of the articles that somebody that migrated from, what's the other, the Microsoft one? No, not UFS. Sorry? Codeplex. They have a project there, no pull request. As soon as they went to GitHub, they started to get pull requests. That just to show what devs like to use. Here's the GitHub address, .net.github.io. You go there, you have all the documentation, all the samples, and everything is there. So what's the difference between being open source and being collaborative? Exactly. That's the idea. I thought that we finish here. Like, thank you for the pizza, and that's it. Woo! Being collaborative means that it's not that you publish the source and everybody can take a look and copy it, because first of all, you can be open source and nobody can use it. Right? You all see that? Yes. There you have not even strength to know, just. Then you can be open source, let everybody use it, but doesn't mean that you can actually work on it and do a pull request. Anybody's not familiar what a pull request means? You all familiar with it? Great. Then it's modular. If I'm saying that .NET Core is modular, what would be the difference? What do you imagine would be the difference? Exactly. First, whatever you don't need to install. Right? So there's no more central GAC, anything like that. That if we've been working on Windows for a bit, we've been beaten by this. And installing stuff from the GAC to the GAC in the GAC is a mess. So similar to many other frameworks, the idea of having a package manager helps you to support that everything is packages. And that's why we're using Nuget. Everybody here use Nuget? Yes? No? You too in the back? Yeah? Good. So when you download the tools, you have a minimum initial footprint, and then you configure similar to Rails or similar to Node. You say which packages you want, and that's it. And then you have to wait for them to download. Even you can have, of course, different branches, different versions running side by side. Can you do that now? Change the .NET framework you have? Well, maybe between branches you can. But the dependencies are not that easy. Right? So far, so good? So let's talk about benefits. So who should care about this? About being having a .NET framework that is multi-platform? Would the guys that develop in Rails, Node.js, Elixir be excited about it? Say, can't wait to try it? No. So this is not developers. Okay. Well, that could be is the same for developers. I think that for developers it opens the world that before this we're limited by tools. For example, you said you use it .NET Core with Elasticsearch, right? Otherwise you couldn't do that. There's a new version of Nginx. Otherwise you couldn't try it out. There is a new whatever name server other tools, otherwise you wouldn't try out. You have to wait for the version for Windows, right? And sometimes, I don't know if this happens to you, that the version that runs on Linux in Windows, they're not as stable, right? And this changes everything. So like Quinn said, this is only what you need. It's very, very fast. I don't have the benchmarks, but it's way faster than before. It's very lightweight, and is a complete CLI rewrite. So after many years of experience, after many years of working on it, they had a chance to rewrite it from the ground up. This is from one of the build presentations. The original idea when they started like a year ago, it was to have on this side, right, on the left side, we already have ASP.NET 4.6 with System Web, and on top we have Web Forms, MVC, and Web API. On the other side, and you see that the other side kind of crosses a bit to the .NET framework, because you have both options when you work on Windows, MVC 6, ASP.NET.5, and the .NET execution environment. But after using it for a bit, they changed it to have a unified version, and it's called ASP.NET Core and ASP.NET Core MVC. So you don't have DNX anymore. So if you ever see DNX or something like that, that probably blog post or whatever is old. And you should try to find a new one. And it's very hard. This is very new. There's lots of packages out there, and lots of outdated packages too. So for example, in the ASP.NET features, let me show you this first. So what these boxes mean is the re-implementation of the code. So you have HTML helpers in both web pages and MVC. They share the Razor engine. And then the controllers, the action and the filters, they're completely different. Okay? Sorry. And the dependency injection and the model binding is different in both of them. The idea is that it's going to be one ASP.NET Core that is going to include all that we know, that is web pages, MVC, and API. So how this is implemented, you're going to see now when you start a new project and you choose ASP.NET Core, there's no more MVC. There's no more web API. However, once you go to the next screen, you would choose one of these flavors. I want to show you what I left behind. The important bit, and this is just to mention it, and you know, so far you could host only on IIS or maybe on Owin or using F# to host, but now you have Kestrel and Startup, that they're both, Kestrel is a new web engine that lets you host your app, and Startup is for configuration. Now you have routing, authentication, all these packages are separated, that before they were all together, and if you guys been writing web apps, you know that how messy that could be. Now it's way more separated, and if you ever worked on Rails or Node or other platform, you already know these concepts. They're very, very similar. Dependency injection, configuration, login, and you have, as application frameworks, you have MVC, identity, I don't know what happened there, and SignalR, but SignalR is not yet released. So it's going to happen soon. So why is good for us? Because licenses, they're not anymore a problem. You could have maybe one license for Windows, but you don't need to develop in Windows, and you don't need to deploy to Windows. And that simplifies things quite a bit. How many Windows hosts are online? How many do you know? 0? Yeah. Azure. How many? Sorry?
AWS hosts.
AWS. How many host providers for Linux? Lots. Right? So the options suddenly, and that's why I think for developers is very important, because options appear everywhere. Right? How many times were you in a project where you want to try something and wasn't actually either Microsoft supported or Microsoft certified, and you couldn't?
You're probably going to get to this, but is it, can you install it like user space? User install it?
What do you mean?
You need root access to install?
I didn't need root. But I am assuming that you can. No, I use Homebrew, and I didn't need root. So we were talking about licensing, we're talking about hosting, we talk about leveraging tools, right? We mentioned Elasticsearch, Nginx. What other tools we could use out there? That's the two I use.
Docker.
Exactly. I was waiting for that. Docker. If you haven't heard, Docker is very, very hot right now, so you should put it in your resume. And Docker, unfortunately, in Windows or in Mac, doesn't run native, but it's the idea of running similar to the idea of virtual machines separating environments, but they run as a lightweight process. And they're talking about that in the future, Windows will be able to do it. In Mac, I have no clue if they're going to bother with that or not. But in Linux, it's very, very useful. Very, very useful because it's seamless integration. So suddenly, instead of having to install a database or having to install Elasticsearch or Solar or whatever you want, right? You want Nginx, there is a Docker image for that. So you just get the image and you can configure them to work together. And of course, if you can do that, you can deploy Docker too. So deployment becomes much simpler because you mimic actually the same environment. And if an image has a problem, is corrupted, whatever, you toss it and get a new one. So setting environments, when you start to work, you don't need to spend days installing Visual Studio, right? Or installing SQL Server or whatever it is. You have a Docker image with that, and that's it, and you move on. So we talked about the benefits. Let's define or talk about the drawbacks. What would you say could be a drawback?
Porting existing products.
Porting existing products. Why? Why is if they're both C#? What's the problem? It's the same code.
Missing WinForms and WPF.
Sorry?
No WinForms and WPF and all that stuff.
No, that's right. But I consider that a benefit. Don't quote me though. No, yeah, that's right. So if you have WinForms and WPF and stuff like that, but still most of your libraries could be compatible, right? What else?
New code. It's going to have new bugs.
Exactly. So this is in flux. Like they changed it I don't know how many times since they released it. Now is RC2, I don't remember the whole number. Projects from 3 months ago, they don't run. You have to change the dependencies. You see suggestions that the actually configuration file change, and you need to rename it and stuff like that. So it's a great promise. I'm not sure yet if it's really stable, but it's a great idea to start looking into it. You have actually less functionality. Not all the libraries are ported yet, and they're adding more and more. But again, I think that if the subset of libraries works for you, it could be a great opportunity to start. Of course, like Quinn was saying, is less mature. The other tool, the other libraries, either we like them or not, people already been using them and finding bugs and hopefully fixing them. So this is new, and is to expect that you have more bugs to come and to fix. And the big question, and that's something that you were talking about, do you really care? Does it change for you the world to say, look guys, we can deploy it to Linux. Yay. Let's keep working on WinForms. So that's a very big question. I don't know, what do you think? Is it something that at work could change the way you work? Is it something that your managers could care less about it? Is it something that said, I learned .NET Core, I need a raise? No. No. Yes?
I think this is awesome because, one, we talked about Windows licenses.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to just spawn out Linux machines is awesome. And so that reduces cost there. And then we talked about using Docker to just create this environment. So once this takes off and we have Docker working properly, it's really, really awesome. A lot better than what we currently have.
True. The rest of you? Imagine you won't work in WinForms anymore.
If you ever want to get out of WinForms.
That's a great point. You just don't tell him. Don't say anything. And when everything is done, I don't know what happened with WinForms. I'm not sure. They say it was compatible. I don't know. Like, did you check the box? Is there anything in there? The what, sorry? The idea is that all the vendors, they're starting to port their stuff. Like every library, like XUnit and other libraries are porting the stuff. Of course, you depend on the speed. Hopefully, being open source and between codes community driven, things will go really fast. Because now you have the chance that if you need it, if you really need it, you can dedicate the time and make it part of the application.
It comes with 2015.
Sorry?
It comes with Visual Studio 15.
Yeah, you can choose .NET Core as one of the target frameworks. In Windows, you can use whatever you want. When you want to go to Macs and Linux, you can use one combination, right? Only .NET Core. You cannot target the framework 4, 6 point, I don't remember what, 1, 2, whatever it is.
You want to build a team with different platforms?
You want to build a project with different platforms? Yeah, why not? No, too bad? Like, too ahead of the curve? Too behind? I don't know. So far so good? Let's talk a bit about structure. Before we move on, any questions about this? You guys like it so far? Yeah? Pizza sinking in? Yeah? So, in terms of structure, there's not that much, but the first thing you can see is that now we have a project.json. Right? Before you had, yes?
They're getting rid of it, but it's there.
Well, I cannot put the slides fast enough. So what's
Just
the...
one example of that flux, right?
Yeah, totally. And what's coming then? MS Build? Again?
They got rid of Project JSON for MS Build.
Again? Really? But until they just use this. Okay, was that last month?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
They want carriage returns in their config files.
No. Not MSB.
They haven't decided how they're going to do it yet. It might be just a stripped down version of it. But
Of the project.json?
yeah.
Okay, well, let's pretend for today that is a JSON file.
Let's pretend today was last Tuesday.
Yeah.
Well, I just downloaded the last version and they still use the JSON file. So
RC2 was yesterday. So,
yeah, and I'm using that.
so they announced it at the community stand-up last week.
Okay, well,
It's pretty
okay, well, if you test it today, here's what you're going to do. Like, the validity of this presentation is 24 hours. After 24 hours, don't call me. So you will see things like this. First, the dependencies. Again, this is very similar to Node, very similar to Rails, to many other frameworks. And this is actually, I grabbed the code that George prepared. He did. We were talking in the .NET channel about the Euler project and one of the problems. And George wrote it last week. It was the one about poker hands, that you get a poker hand and you need to put a value to it. And he wrote it last week. So since last week to this week, I had to change all the dependencies. Because, of course, it didn't compile. Right?
You cannot pull all dependencies?
It's a combination of the target. So, yeah, because I want a DNX Core 5, right? And I wanted these two frameworks, so I couldn't work with those dependencies. And I knew I could have gone that way to show you, but I felt bad about it. I said, no, I have to show you something that just happened. And I didn't know they were going to change it again. So the idea of the project.json is to have the dependencies, the frameworks. Right now, if you use Visual Studio, I haven't tried in Visual Studio. I just tried it on my Mac. But at least for Mac or for Linux, there are no templates. If you can use, I'm going to show you the tools when you install. If you go to the main project, there is installers for each of the platforms. And when you install, there is the tool, the command line, it's called .NET. And you can use it to generate an app. And I'm going to show you that. No, I don't want to do. Okay. Is that too small? I think so, right? So let me That better? Yeah. So you have .NET. And the commands that we're going to use today is restore, build, and test. I didn't get into deployment. I didn't get into anything else. I had spent enough time trying to get the dependencies. So I said, no, I won't be able to do that. So when you create, I'm going to do a test tab, .NET new. It creates, can you guys see this? That's the result. Maybe in the future, this will be like the node generator or like Yeoman and Rails and all that, and you will do new and I want it this way and that way, and you will just speed out the whole structure. So let's see. I'll show you first. That's the default. And that's the default JSON. So this is going to write hello world. So if you do .NET run, it doesn't realize that the dependencies are not installed. That seems very kind of basic, but you have to do it. So .NET restore. And I wanted to do a restore with this small sample, otherwise we could be here for a while. And run. Hello world. Here's how I prove my prowess in coding. So I'll show you. Where am I? So here is the same. Here's an example that you will find in the documentation. Here's a Hello MVC project. So to give you an idea, here are the dependencies. And you see that you have ASP, NetCore, MVC, and all the other dependencies. You see Kestrel in there? Yeah, that's the web server. So like we were saying before, we having the .NET command line installed, you can just install all the rest based on your dependencies. That's much, much lighter than if you remember spending days installing Visual Studio, right? I'm not sure what will happen when you need to install a SQL Server and stuff like that, but they're working on a SQL Server version and runs on Linux, right? We'll see. And you have the frameworks, and you have scripts and tools. And let me see. Here's the home controller. Very simple. Just returns a view. And the view is very simple. It brings an image with banner ASP.NET. And then it says hello world. It comes with a Docker file. If you want to try it out, that's the image, .NET preview. So there's already an image created for you. If you guys start playing with Docker a bit, and then when you get more comfortable, then you can try it out. So let's do .NET run.
So is it self-hosting?
Yeah. So application started. Localhost. Voila. Here's your ASP.NET 5 demo. So now, we don't do only hello worlds. There's another example, a music store, right? If you ever download it, it's a music store that you can show albums and buy them and log in and using Facebook and Twitter and other stuff. So you can check the code online, right? I just want to show you that you can run more complex stuff and still works. Because hello worlds are okay, but that doesn't shout confidence. Let's see the music store, and you can get details and you can choose all the metal albums and you can register or log in. It uses all these authentication methods, so it's quite a complex app, right? So far so good. Again, the idea of tonight is that sparking you the curiosity, you get to download it and play with it. Probably what you saw right now is already outdated when you try it tonight. So just know that you're going to have to play with the dependencies and check the versions and make sure it works. And last but not least, where am I? Sorry. Let me close this. So this is George implemented that project. So if we take a look at this is the JSON that I had to fix, and I added XUnit and .NET XUnit, but he had XUnit 2.0, and 2.0 won't work with my target framework, so the right version is this RC2-star. Here you can see the main program, right? Opens a file. And just uses the game class. The game class are in the model folder. And if we do .NET run, it says here, player 1 wins. And then we can do, I change one test to fail, so you can see it. .NET test. So one of the tests failed. So if we go change it to 0. That's it.
What is your test shell with it?
Sorry?
Your test shell script?
My test shell script is XUnit.
Yeah, like just the command.
.NET test.
Like you had it was running test.sh or something.
No, test.sh, I'll show you. It's just this. But I think that test does build, so you don't need it, but you won't do restore. I don't know. Probably you can add, if you're using Linux or Mac, you can add, when you try to search a command that doesn't, it will search, I don't know, if you say .NET test 1. So it will tell you .NET dash test 1 doesn't exist. So if you put in your bin a .NET test 1 that does this, that's it. So it will do always restore. And again, that's another benefit of being able to work in Linux or in Mac, that you've been like shells in both of them, they've been there forever. And there's all kind of flavors of shells and things you can do, and integrations, and in Mac there's notifications. You can use growl if you like it to see them better and customize it. So yeah, I agree that there's stuff in Windows too, but compared to PowerShell, I think the richness of the Bash or ZSH or whatever is coming, it's much more interesting. Any questions?
So I noticed you said the DNX layer was gone.
Yeah.
Yet in your package of JSON I saw you wanted DNX.
No, yeah, that's the name, but it's gone. It had the layer that was before the command was DNX. Now it's .NET. I don't know. Tomorrow could be a giraffe. Who knows? But the thing is that whatever you test today, you know that next week may change, and hopefully the path they're choosing, my hopes, I was about to say I'm confident, but I'm not confident. My hopes are that being community influenced, maybe not driven by influence, there will be more fight about doing weird stuff and not doing what apt-get has been doing for years, or gem they've been doing for years, or bundler or yeoman, so hopefully there will be more push to say no, listen, I know you want to go this way, right? But look, we have this that is proven and everybody's using it. We can build on top, but let's not just go all the other way on purpose. Any other questions?
They promise anything?
They promise lots of stuff. The road, you mean?
Yeah, when the deployment, when they deploy statement.
Yeah, I think in the fall, but I'm not sure there will be maybe a new version. But actually, the big difference now is that new versions will happen all the time. There's no more central that will twice a year or the things like that. The new versions will come all the time. You don't need to use them though, right? Like any other package manager, you don't need to upgrade. If you like to go with newer stuff because you want to try it, it's easier. You change the dependencies. You don't like it, you roll back, or it doesn't work. It's much easier than before. So hopefully, I don't know, in a couple of weeks or in another month, we'll have another version and more libraries and more code.
So is there anything that in IIS that is gone? Like, I'm thinking of like app pools and stuff. And if it's all self-hosted,
Yeah.
then you're losing these layers, right?
Of like security and
The stuff that you layer on with IIS.
I think that if they keep going this way, probably that will be just a package that you can configure and put before, right? The same way that you in Swave, you can combine them, right? And and put filters, or if you would do it with Nginx, will be the same thing.
Documentation is for cycles, or
Is what?
documentation for cycles?
If the documentation is for?
Cycles.
That's very hard to answer. Documentation is not yet fully complete. There's some examples like the store that I think that solves many of the stuff that you usually want in a web app. So I think that's pretty good. There's more and more examples coming. Again, not all the functionality is ported yet. So it's a good idea probably to investigate if what you need isn't there. And I understand the risk that if you jump into the .NET Core now, 2 weeks from now, you may find that it's a bit limiting. Having said that, it's something worth exploring for sure. For sure, it means a lot for development, for deployment. Suddenly, you're part of a world that I never thought that .NET developers could be part of. Right? That now we can get excited about other tools and look outside the .NET world to see whoever comes with the best idea, and that will be great for us too. Right? So that's very, very exciting, and work related. Suddenly, if this doesn't mean that open source is okay, I'm not sure what else do you need to convince anybody. Right? That there's no more argument that we cannot use XUnit because it's open source.
So carriage return line feeds in all these files?
Yes.
True.
I'm not sure in all this. And this is a great opportunity to learn VI too. You learn VI, you can use it across environment. What do you guys use? Atom?
Usually use Visual Studio Code.
Yeah, you use VS Code?
Yeah, a lot.
A lot? There is
I barely use Visual Studio anymore.
well, there is I'm not sure if there are plugins yet for to do the run and all that, but you can configure that.
There are. No,
There are?
they're already there.
Cool. So if you like Visual Studio Code, there you go. Probably there's stuff for Atom too. I don't know. Anybody uses Atom, Ionide? One of those? No? Okay. Well, Visual Studio is fine too. I didn't test this in Visual Studio. I'm assuming that it will just work. Any other questions? No?
You know when the F# is getting put?
No. I would love to see that.
Very well.
Yeah, I would love to see F#.
You believe this is the future?
Totally. I have no doubt. If you're asking me if this is going to win over everybody else, no, I don't think so. But for definitely, this is the first step to be competitive. If you don't do this, all the other frameworks that are appearing and stuff like that, they have an advantage. If you're always limited by hosting, by runtime, by centralized deployments, right now, if this would work, you don't need to worry about not having a deployment tool, because you can use whatever you want. Otherwise, you have to use MS Deploy, and we all know how that ends.
What is the competition? Why did they do this? Do you know?
I think it's, well, you have Rails and Python forever trying to yelling at them stuff, every time they come with the bus, they yell stuff. I think Node got the community excited though I'm not sure how much the community is going to stay with Node. Then I think Elixir and Erlang and of course F#, things like that are having a big push in terms of backend and APIs, and why not front end too. So for me, this is the best way to still be in the race and keep trying to win that part of the cake, right? That otherwise is smaller and smaller.
Do you think it might be microservices? Because it's just not.
Microservices?
Yeah, because it's just not feasible to rent out 200 Windows licenses to run a platform.
Yeah. Well, of course, microservices and being able to scale and being able to Docker and being able to, it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, if you get a free license, then all of a sudden it's possible to run
Yeah.
surface architecture.
Totally, but they could have also tried to come with a free model or
That's true too.
and something like that, and
It's a small license.
right, that change the licensing or something. And I'm surprised that, pleasantly surprised that they chose this one and not go the other way. Right, they could start giving Windows licenses with in your email, I don't know, whatever. I was about to send the paper, but who gets the paper anymore? So I think also there's a lot of push, though I agree that developers, they don't have the decision often, but there's a lot of push of developers. A lot of, I don't want that anymore. I want to use GitHub, I want to work this way, I want to have my own environment, I don't want to depend on Windows. I think that there's a lot of that. And there was no denying all the projects in Microsoft were going to GitHub, and F# has been open source for quite a while and community driven and with lots of success. So, anything else? Yes.
This organization.
Sorry, can you speak a bit louder?
Somehow parallelization.
Parallelization
Yes.
in the libraries, you mean?
Means, do they borrow something from F#?
From F#? When it was, what was the last presentation? That when he talked about, I think John was talking about async and await, and I think then somebody said, yeah, that's from C#. And then, of course, I said, no, that's from F#. Because that's already in the language, the async await. In terms of parallelization, I think they're going to migrate all the libraries in time. I don't know yet. I don't know today if they're in there or not. But I think it's going to be exactly the same and keep growing from there. Any other questions? No? So with that, let me... What do I do now? I don't know. I'll find out. So with that, that's it for today. If you have any questions, feel free to... Where is my contact info? You want to send me an email? You have questions, or you want to check the examples, or it's all online. All the examples are online on GitHub, right? .net.github.io. You can get everything there, and that's it. So thank you very much. I have here 3 books. Version Control by Example, continuous integration for .NET, and the clean code. Let's see if I have a random number. Who's if you're interested, can you raise your hand? Oh, is everybody interested? Yeah? Okay. So can you start numbering yourself?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
10.
11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, 22.
Perfect. Now I just need a random generator. Do you have a random generator in your phone?
Just don't ask Darcy for one.
Yeah, I know.
It's it's a 9.
Right?
It's a 9? Okay.
310? Who knows?
Let me just stop this and we'll do it. So you know, the idea of today is to give you an intro and the tools you need. We won't go into details because the details of sorry. Hello? Yes, Ron. It's trying to find us. Yeah, we are. Sure. I'll try to find it. Okay, bye. Should I leave this in the video? Let's see if we can find napkins and plates.